Good evening, everyone. I'm John Penny, the mayor of Holly Hill. It's now 6 p.m. on January 28th. Val, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Snow?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Curry? Commissioner Delanoy?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Penny?
Here. At this time, if you'd silence any electronic devices that make noise, please put them on vibrate. I don't want to embarrass anyone in the front row. And if everyone please rise for the invocation provided by Commissioner Deborah Snow and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we all gather together here today to make laws that affect the people of Holly Hill, I ask you to lift your heads, open your eyes, and open your hearts. Our most serious duty is to look to the community we share, the examples we make, and the legacies that we will live. That should be our greatest, most courageous, and noble intention. Let this be our most constant success. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance. Thank you, Commissioner Snow.
You're welcome.
At this time, we'll entertain public comments. This is the audience's time to address the commission on anything not on our regular agenda. Is there anyone like to address the commission at this time? Yes, ma'am, in the front row. You have 3 minutes. If you just come to the microphone, state your name and the city you live in.
Hello, my name is Katie Savage, and I am a resident of Holly Hill. I'm a mom to a 3-year-old here, and you may see me riding my bicycle around the neighborhood or playing pickleball right across the street at Pictona. I'm here today to talk about water fluoridation. Several months ago, upon reviewing the data, a federal judge ruled that fluoride poses an unreasonable risk to children and pregnant women. And our Florida Surgeon General, Dr. Ladapo, stated that continuing water fluoridation would be considered, quote, public health malpractice. I also have here the official guidance from Dr. Ladapo from November, citing numerous health studies in which he recommends against community water fluoridation due to the, quote, neuropsychiatric risk associated with fluoride exposure. Since these announcements were made, dozens of Florida cities and counties have voted to stop the practice of fluoridating water, including Ormond Beach just last week. You are going to find people who think fluoride is safe and effective, and others who think the risks outweigh the benefits, but I don't think that's the issue here. Fluoride is considered a drug, and adding it to the water constitutes a medical treatment for which the public has no way to opt out. Additionally, it is impossible for residents to have any say on dosage of this drug, hence why children and pregnant women are most affected. A 30-pound child gets the same dosage as a 300-pound adult. The Florida Patient Bill of Rights requires patients to be given informed consent, a risk-benefit analysis, and the ability to opt out. None of those requirements are currently being met for the residents of Holly Hill. What I am hoping is that you will consider putting fluoride on the agenda at a future meeting so these issues can be addressed and a vote can occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Please, sir, refrain from. Anyone else from the audience like to address the commission this evening?
Danielle Latona, 904 Newcastle Court. I'm just here basically following up on the last meeting and the continuous building on Flomish at the RV park. I was under the impression that there was a halt put on it, but I see the 3-foot sidewalk that's being built that's 3 feet above our road, and everything else around us, and every home in the area, and every business that's in the area. It's still happening. So I'm just here to ask, is there going to be something done about it, or do the residents have to take it a step further?
Turn that mic up,
Turn up your hearing aid.
I'll speak louder. So if, I would appreciate responses. If you don't have responses tonight, that's fine. At some point, I can email the city manager, or I could stop by the office and meet with someone. I'm good with taking that time to do that, but I have severe concerns. I don't think it takes anybody that drives down there, like, I've had people calling me that know I live there, that don't even live here, and say, do you see what they're building on Flomish? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to address it. But constant phone calls all week long of just random people that I know about the concerns of that whole area. And I would hope that you guys and ladies address that. I mean, our homes are already flooded in one area and are probably always going to get flooded. I'm convinced at that point that nothing is going to be done about the 3 blocks that are the retention pond. But my concern now is for other people, because there's homes and businesses in that area that have never been flooded before. And I will put it on the record that I guarantee you, if something is not done about that, those homes and businesses will then be flooded. And it'll be the responsibility of this council if that happens. Because the residents have, other than coming here and expressing concerns, have really no ability to do anything, but you guys do. And if there's something I don't know that I'm missing, please let me know. Because I'm willing to listen and see what we can do, but it's very concerning, and I'm just putting it on the record as many times as I have to. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience that want to address the commission on anything not on our agenda? Yes, sir.
I'm a little slow moving, but when I get up, I talk pretty good.
Please address the chair, sir.
My name's Gabriel Varga. I'm the pastor of the Ridgewood Avenue Baptist Church, the Total Rescue Mission, 501 Ridgewood Avenue, Holly Hill. Yeah, the workshop last Tuesday. I was interested in hearing what it said. The only thing I could hear was your voices loud and clear, forte, loud and clear. And the presenter, you couldn't hear him. That's what you had. Listen to your tape. Don't you have any professional people around here know how to make the thing work right, or don't you want us to hear? You limit speech. God's for free speech. Mr. Trump won the election. He says we're going to have free speech in America. I hope it's not continue to be hindered here by tyrants who only allow 3 minutes. This poor lady was here before me. She's been standing up for the water thing. You've been 30 years negligent on that. Then you have a workshop. You can't even hear what the guy had to say. Oh, it's going to be a great thing, great thing. That's what Walker told me. Couldn't even hear him. You're great at snuffing out free speech. Totalitarian regimes do that. That's the devil's people. You want to be identified with the devil? I identify you with the devil. You can shake your head no all you want. We got a Deborah Snow, District 1, my commissioner, that refuses to talk to me. What kind of government is that? A 100-year-old church pastor, and she will not talk to it. What kind of a public servant are you? You're nothing. Jeffrey Delaney, he's new. He told me he's going to talk to me, but he hasn't yet. You going to talk to me, Jeffrey? Yes or no? Ask in front of the people.
Please address me, sir.
Yes, sir. This is Pope John III, third-time mayor. We call him Pope John III. John Penn, crooked politician, come out of hell, and his cohort Mr. Forte. I got 40 seconds left. God's going to have his hand of judgment upon you. Supposed to have a prayer and you have someone read a little bit of foolishness in the beginning. How foolish. I got to say what I want for 26 more seconds. God help you wicked souls. Turn this thing up so people can hear. People are tired of being squashed from their speech. There's a judgment day coming. Repent. Repent, lest you likewise perish. God help you.
God bless you, sir. Anyone else from the audience like to address the commission? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ellen Borger, 900 Newcastle Court in Holly Hill. So earlier today, I went onto the City of Holly Hill.
Turn that mic up.
Please, sir. You need to
Second
you need
warning.
to calm
I'm losing my
yourself.
minutes
I
here.
can't hear it.
That's third
I can
warning.
hear you, but I can't hear her.
Warnings.
I'm losing my minutes. Okay, so earlier today, I
We'll
went
give you more
onto-
time, ma'am. He's
I
being,
went to the City of Holly Hill site, and I just typed in Glen Meadows flooding. And I found something, it was like a 53-page document, and it was regarding drainage projects. And this went back to 2018. And there was a gentleman, Samuel Hamilton. He was the principal in charge from Zev Cohen Associates. And it says in there that he was the principal in charge of designing the drainage system. So my question is, did the ball just get dropped? Or, I mean, this is from 2018, nothing has been done. Do you want this?
no, ma'am.
So that's basically all I'm saying. I just found that from 2018, and he was in charge of designing a new drainage system. So this is going back, what, 6 years? Well, almost 7 years. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience like to address the commission this evening on anything not on our regular agenda? Seeing none, we'll close audience participation. Ms. Savage, the fluoridation issue, we're forming a charter review committee, and our city is different than Ormond. The fluoridation is in our charter, so it was voted on by the citizens to have it. So the only way to change it is to change the charter. So there'll be a charter review committee forming, and there'll be a special election for that, I believe, the end of this year. So that issue will be addressed.
At the end of this year?
Well, as long as the charter review committee gets their work done within enough time to have a special election this year.
Okay.
And then Danielle, the RV park, and Brian can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that there's 2 areas of construction. One is east of the canal, and they are authorized to continue work east of the canal. From what I understand, west of the canal has been put on hold right now. And so, okay, it's not a time for discussion and debate, okay? I'm just trying to answer your questions. Mr. Varga, I want to thank you for the 300 emails you just sent me in the last 30 days. I just wish you would send me something current or factual. And just for your own edification, we open our meetings with an invocation. It's not a prayer.
I didn't hear that. Repeat that.
No, thank you. And then, I'm not sure, Ellen, I'm not sure of the study in 2018. Joe, are you familiar with that study?
I'm not. I just got a copy of what she had, and I'll take a look at it tomorrow.
Okay, all right, thank you for bringing that to our attention. So now we're going to move to item 3, which is approval of the minutes from the January 14th, 2005 workshop and January 14th, 2005 regular city commission meeting and the CRA meeting. Someone like to make a motion to approve?
I make a motion to
And I'll second it.
Any discussion needed? Anyone in the audience like to comment on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries unanimously. We'll now move to item 4, which is the consent agenda. There's only one item on the consent agenda. It doesn't require any discussion from the commission, but would any commissioner like to discuss this item?
I want to speak up.
Sir, please maintain yourself. When I call on you, you can speak back. I don't want you to burst out and interrupt our business meeting.
Just want to make sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
3 warnings.
Would anyone from the audience like to discuss the consent agenda? Come forward, please.
Gabriel Varga, pastor Ridgewood Avenue Baptist Church, Daytona Rescue Mission, 501 Ridgewood Avenue, Holly Hill.
Who cares?
This consent agenda is getting close to $1 million remodel on a park that was made for a special interest group that put up the twin Grande Towers with the help of Holly Hill pouring millions of dollars into it. A white elephant, the white elephant. And there, I've got a fishing pier 3 blocks from my church that you won't fix. And you fix it for your friends, your millionaire friends. You pay $700,000 to fix their little water walkway out there. That ain't no bull work. You're fixing their walkway between their picnic areas. That's who uses that place over there. The Grande. First class. It's the only decent park we have in Holly Hill. One decent park. And it's for the millionaire builders. You're great at having special interest groups. The citizens, their houses are flooded. Their parks are closed and taken away. This regime is dedicated completely to special interest groups, like the Grande Twin Towers that you tried to sneak in here. If I wouldn't have said something, another $700,000 to brighten up their little luxury apartment over there. Yeah. You pour millions into special interests. $100 million for 50 years, Pictona, the newest one. God help you. Serious business. I'm just telling you what the Bible says, Mr. Penny. John Penny, the third Pope. There's a judgment coming from God. You can call it a threat if you want. But I'm telling you something. The Bible says, whatsoever a man soweth, he shall also reap. And you're having a warning from a preacher. You're having a warning from a preacher.
A preacher.
That judgment will come upon the type of activities that are going on by the regime of Holly Hill politics. Thank you so much for your time.
Bless your heart, sir. Would anyone else like to discuss this consent agenda item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval. I'm sorry, ma'am, did you want to speak on this?
Why don't we go the resolution 25-7A?
No. R7.
R7.
It's item 4. It's repairing a bulkhead at the 2nd Street Park.
Hello, my name is Danielle Alderette. I live at 714 Grove Avenue. So I'm not able to print out the agenda in its complete form. So is there any way we can have like a forum to actually discuss what you're replacing it with? Like, he's right, you're talking about a park and replacing it with something, but the agenda doesn't really specify what you're doing. So if y'all could tell us that, that would be great, because right now I'm displaced from my home, so I don't have the capabilities to do as much research as I usually would like to do. So that's all I'm asking for. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else like to discuss this? Seeing none, we'll close audience participation. And for the record, the agenda items are all, and the complete agenda is available online. You don't actually need to print it to see it. And Mr. Forte, I think we need to go back and correct some misstatements that were said here.
Mayor, everything that man said is false.
I mean, from my recollection, Marina Grand, the developer, purchased the Second Street Park and created the Second Street Park and then deeded it back to the city.
They never purchased it. It's in the TIF, the Trust of the Internal Improvement Trust Fund. It's owned by the state of
But
Florida.
they provided the improvements there.
It was never owned by the city. It was never owned by Marina Grand. It's always been in the TIF. And in the negotiations in the development of the Marina Grand Towers, we requested that the developer make the park for the city. It's a city-owned park, open to the public. It's not a park associated with the Marina Grand Towers at all. The work that's getting done is the failing seawall, which we've been looking at for a number of years, that has been failing since hurricanes several years ago. We received a grant, I think I'm looking at Joseph, it's a 50% grant to have that seawall repaired. So now we have the funding available to repair the seawall because it's failing and falling, it's about to fall in. This has nothing to do with the pier, the aluminum structure that was struck by a boat and damaged during Hurricane Milton. It has nothing to do with that. So we're replacing the bulkhead seawall only along the portion of the park. Now, the Marina Grand has a similar problem on their bulkhead, which they're handling independently from what we're doing on our bulkhead.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on this issue? Someone like to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to item 5, which is our regular agenda, which is a request for lien reduction on 1319 Bender Avenue.
I'm getting there. Okay, so the city received a request for a reduction of a code enforcement lien that was placed on the property at 1319 Bender Avenue. The original owner is Richard Lee Johnson Estate. He is deceased. The property is under an order of petition to sell the real estate property with Deborah Lee Jenkins serving as the personal representative and is authorized to sell the property. The property has been in a state of disrepair and neglect despite repeated requests for improvements and code enforcement action by the city of Holly Hill. An order of noncompliance was issued on February 23rd to the property owner, Richard L. Johnson Estate, for violations of several sections of the IPMC and city ordinance, it's the International Property Maintenance Code, and city ordinances which are contained in the attached order of noncompliance and listed below, which consists of sanitary nuisance, damage to windows, and roofs and drainage. The entire code enforcement file is attached, but is also available in the code enforcement office. The property is under contract with Myron and Sherry Cahoe. They're the buyers who are willing to enter into an agreement, which is attached to this agenda item, to bring the property into full compliance by repairing and rehabilitating the property according to the current standards of the Florida Building Code within a specified period of time in exchange for a reduction in the amount of the lien. The city is willing to reduce the lien to the buyer in a negotiated amount of $5,019.35 and file a release of lien after payment is made to the city of Holly Hill and the property is in compliance in accordance with the attached agreement, which has been signed by the buyers. The original lien was $44,700, and taking into account 10% of that lien plus the administrative fees, I'm recommending that the lien be reduced to $5,019.35.
Any questions of staff at this time? Nope. Anyone from the audience like to discuss this lien reduction? Is the applicant here? Would you like to say anything, sir?
I just said,
One second, you just got to state your name and the city you live in for us, please.
Myron Kehoe, Watertown, New York.
Thank you.
And I just have a contract. I own the house, two houses, 1311 Don Rabbit about 7 years ago. It was sort of the same situation. We renovated it and regrettably sold it. Looking for this as an opportunity to fix the house up and make everybody happy.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone from the audience like to discuss this lien reduction? Seeing none, we'll close audience participation and entertain a motion for approval.
Motion. Second.
Any discussion needed?
No.
Went by and looked at it, it looks pretty good.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries unanimously. Now we'll move to item 6, which is public hearings, which is ordinance 2025-0-3081.
Ordinance number 2025-0-3081 by title only for second and final reading. An ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, approving the first major amendment to the Fountainhead mixed-use plan unit development and PUD development agreement, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Mr. Watts.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, for the record, Mark Watts with the law firm of Scott Cole, 231 North Woodland Boulevard, DeLand. Appreciate the opportunity to be here for you on second reading. Wanted to just follow up on our conversation from a couple weeks back. We heard the first reading on the proposed revision. As we discussed at that meeting, we're really just making some tweaks to add a couple of extra uses to the existing PUD and adjust some of the square footages in the allocations. And I'll remind you that at the last meeting, we did make one minor correction to go from 30,000 square feet of the ultimate medical use to 40 to accommodate a couple of users that we're anticipating coming into the overall campus. So I don't want to belabor any of the points on that. You asked us, unless you have questions about the actual amendment, you had also asked us, on approval of the first reading, to follow up with staff to talk about the status of the current incentive agreement with the Fountainhead redevelopment project. So we've had a number of conversations, specifically aimed at kind of terminating the existing agreement and coming up with a framework to move forward. Really, just providing for some opportunities to potentially acquire some of the additional property, parcels 3 and 4. So I provided you with a letter kind of summarizing our communications with city staff over the past couple of weeks and kind of outlining the proposal to terminate. We're not there yet with regard to meeting all of the various points that we've been talking about. I think there's several things that are acceptable. There's a couple things that we have to kind of have some more discussion on. I think the key point for this purpose of this evening was one of the statements that I made at the last meeting was that based on the timing of the new uses that we're anticipating coming onto the site, they will not realistically qualify for any of the job incentives. And so I've provided that confirmation, in the letter that I gave you this evening. I'll leave a copy with the clerk as well. But I've also talked with the city attorney and city manager about, how to make sure that you have that, kind of confirmation in writing as well. And so I think we're fine with stipulating that the second amendment or the approval on second reading be conditioned and effective on us providing that written confirmation of the waiver that the job sellers would not, apply to the new uses that are being proposed to bring onto the site. So with that, I'll stop and open up for any other questions or any other comments that staff or your council may have.
Any questions for Mr. Watts at this time?
No. Thank you.
No, I don't have anything.
Brian, did you want to go ahead and give us your report? Reader's Digest version?
Staff does not have any changes to what was stated in first reading. If you would like, I'll be happy to go through the item.
Anyone need any clarification?
No?
Okay, all right, thank you, Brian.
Okay.
So, Joe and or Scott, from the perspective of taking moving this item forward this evening. According to Mr. Watts, the zoning would not take effect until we could come to an agreement on the termination of the employee incentive. Is that correct?
Well, I think we're in agreement. I think what it needs to say is they've acknowledged that they're in essence waiving the right to claim any jobs incentives, money for the new uses that come onto the property pursuant to this rezoning, correct?
That's correct, and I don't think that really requires an agreement. I think it's just written waiver so that there's a signed document that's enforceable.
So-
Yes.
As a recommendation of a motion, if the commission is willing to approve, but I would make a recommendation that we approve subject to amending section 4 to state that this ordinance does not become effective until the applicant submits an acceptable waiver of the jobs incentive money for new uses that would come on the property pursuant to the rezoning that is being approved.
And with the $40,000 correction on the allocation.
And so, just for clarification, the letter signed by Mr. Watts, do you have the ability to create this on behalf of your applicant?
And that's the purpose for conditioning
Okay.
the effective date
Okay.
of the ordinance so that you have something signed by
Okay.
an authorized representative from Fountainhead.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I think that's an effective way to approach it.
Okay. Is the commission clear on,
Stated differently,
What's
if
happening?
the applicant isn't willing to sign that he acknowledges he's waiving his right to incentives, job incentives money for the new jobs that come on for these new uses, then the ordinance never becomes effective.
Correct.
So this is new information that I just received just prior to walking into the meeting tonight, which is why we didn't have a chance to discuss it earlier.
I'll confirm that. I told Joe about 550.
anyone have any questions for staff or the applicant at this time?
No.
All right, thank you. So I'll open it up to audience participation. Anyone from the audience like to comment on this matter before us this evening? Seeing no comments, we'll close public participation and entertain a motion for approval.
Motion for approval with an amended section 4 and 30,000 square feet changing to 40,000.
Is that clean enough for you, Scott?
Yeah, you're basically saying, you're just dittoing what I said plus the 30 to 40,000 square feet.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
And I'll second it for that.
Any discussion?
You good with that, Val?
Any discussion needed at this time?
No.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just surprised Ferguson had to be here to make the deal work.
Yeah, fine. Just need to-
All right, so go ahead and move on to our city manager comments, Joe.
Val's going to pull up for me a copy of the Public Works org chart, and this is a change that's taken place effective yesterday. I don't know if you can make that any, yeah, that's too big. Okay. So what's happened is Antoine Curry has submitted his retirement letter effective in, I think it's June. So in the meantime, I worked with Antoine and Joseph and Steve to reorganize the department, and what you see up there is the new organization chart that's kind of color-coded. And what it's doing is Joseph is now going to function as the Public Works Director, and he's going to continue to oversee the water and wastewater departments and the capital improvements, the $21 million worth of capital improvements taking place in the yard. Steve is going to continue to handle the fleet division and the facilities divisions. We took out of, and then under the city engineer, which is Antoine, for the next 5 months, he's going to oversee the field crews of the street department and the stormwater division. The distribution and collection employees will now report back under the water and wastewater operators and report to them under Joe's direction. Then it's my intention to go ahead and we've just completed working on the job description, is to go ahead and advertise Antoine's replacement as a stormwater manager, someone that has stormwater experience that will be able to come in here and oversee the field crews of what the city needs to do, what we could do to help minimize and mitigate some flooding that we are responsible for example, with our roadside ditches, with our catch basins, with swales, all the things that over time have fallen out of maintenance. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to hire somebody that will come in and get us back on a continuing maintenance program. So that's where we are with that. There's really nothing for anyone to vote on or to build consensus. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of the changes that we're moving forward with in the Public Works Department. In addition to that, I want to just make you aware, I sent you an email this afternoon that we completed the scope of services for the Stormwater Master Plan. That was sent to Volusia County this afternoon. Once we get that approved, Volusia County will actually oversee the contract for the new Stormwater Master Plan, which will take into account the 2015 Stormwater Master Plan conclusions, in addition to the recent vulnerability assessment, as well as the recent damages that were incurred from Hurricanes Ian and Milton. And they will come up, in addition to that, we're asking for 12 very specific stormwater projects during that study. So that is underway, and we're pretty happy with that. And then, as you already know, we're moving forward with the duck bills and the stormwater pipelining already. This week, I noticed that Volusia County has a grade-all at Enterprise Court and LPGA at the canal, and it looks like they're doing some clearing of that northeast canal, as well as there's a grade-all up on Cala Grande near the Cala Grande Arches. Now, I don't know how much they're doing because they didn't tell me. They might just do those two little openings and never see them again, or they may be trying to work on clearing that entire canal, which, Mayor, you and I know has got some choke points in it.
They were on commercial today, I saw another.
They were on Commercial Drive?
Yeah.
So it looks like we got their attention with our meetings with them, and it's all progress going in the right direction.
Good.
That's all I have.
Got anything for us, Scott?
No comments.
A couple of things on the agenda, a couple of things not on the agenda. Charter review, we need to start thinking of the appointee that you want to select. I'm trying to see if we can get that on the first meeting in February so we can get this process going. I knew it was just a matter of time before the fluoride issue would come up, and it's come up, and it's in our charter. So
with that, we don't have an application for that, so that'll just be a nomination from the floor and supported by the commission.
Right, so think of someone that you want to bring forward for that.
Okay.
And tomorrow, there's a ribbon cutting. I don't know if you have signed up for it, but there's ribbon cutting over on Nova Road tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I think.
I think it's 4.
4 o'clock? Yeah, tomorrow afternoon.
Is that at 11:37?
Yes, yeah. This Saturday, for our two newly elected, there's a newly elected officials meeting. If you are able to go, you can take away a lot from that. February 8th is Daytona Beach's Mayor's Ball, and we've all been invited to attend. I will not be able to attend. It's my mother's 80th birthday week. We're taking 4 days over in Orlando to celebrate that she lived to 80 years old. So if anyone wants to bring a guest or know someone else that might want to come, get with Joe.
We'll open it up to other staff people first.
Okay.
before-
However you want to do it. I won't be there. And that brings me to the two things on the agenda, the Corporate Citizen of the Year. We talked about this at our workshop a couple weeks ago. And I think there was consensus that we move forward with Madden Enterprises, which is the corporate name for Madden's Ace Hardware, which they own a hardware store. Their store here in Holly Hill was the third store that they purchased. They have 6 stores now, 3 here in Florida and 3 in North Carolina. They give back to the community whenever they can. They're one of the first stores to open after the storms and one of the last stores to close before the storms. They have not only invested in their business, Mark and Jerry Madden are the owners. They sold their big house in Ormond and bought a house in Holly Hill a couple years ago. And they have 2 rental houses here that their relatives live in, and their grandson just bought a house 2 weeks ago on Daytona Avenue. So they're very well invested in our community. They give back to the Kiwanis Club. They do a round-up 2 or 3 times a year, where the round-up on your bill, if it's $2.18, you round it up to $3, and they donate that money. There's a cause, Live Like Cameron. It's a young man that unfortunately passed away from cancer. And they also do that for the Children's Miracle Network. But they just give and give and give. If you have a golf tournament or a PTA fundraiser and you need something donated, they have a real hard time telling you no. So I just think they're great people. So I think we had consensus on that, but we need to have a motion to formally accept them.
I make a motion to accept them.
And I'll second it.
Would anyone from the audience like to discuss the Maddens as the corporate citizens of the year? Seeing none, we'll close out. Okay, raise your hand when you're gonna. I didn't see it. Yell, scream.
No, I'm not the yellow.
Yeah.
Danielle Latona. I just want to say that is I'm very happy with that.
Good.
Thank you for that, because they are, during hurricanes, you walk in there, they're very helpful. When the city ran out of bags, they were like, not even charging what they, at a very low price to get people bags. And I shop there before I go to Lowe's and Home Depot.
Me
They're very
too.
good people, so they deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. Anyone else like to comment on that? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Now I have to talk about the Citizen of the Year. And so at our workshop, we talked about that. We had several suggestions, but I believe we reached consensus on anyone here, don't tell him, Mr. Jim Legary, which he's not here tonight.
That's unusual.
He's been coming to commission meetings before any of us, I think, were here. He's a voice. You were here? Were you the fire chief, though? You were probably the fire chief back then. But Jim is so involved. He's one of the most well-read people I know. Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, you'll always have a pleasant conversation. You might part not agreeing on the same thing. You might not vote for the same people, but he's just a great guy. He was instrumental when the county closed our library across the street. He took it upon himself to gather books. And those books are now available for anyone at the Holly Hill YMCA. The city purchased the shelves, but he stocks them. And it's not a library in the traditional sense. It's, if you need the book, take it. If you want to bring it back, bring it back. If you don't want to bring it back, just keep it. Whatever you want to do with it, it's your book. But he's constantly replenishing those books and keeping it up. He was on our planning and appeals board for several years. Whenever there's any workshop where we try to get the audience, citizens' input, he's one of the first ones there. At this time, I'd like to have someone make a formal motion to.
Motion.
I second it.
Would anyone from the audience like to discuss about Mr. Jim Legary? So we'll be inviting those 2 recipients back on February 11th, which is our next meeting. Hopefully they'll be surprised, but we have to give them a little advance notice. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. I think I covered all the stuff I had written down here. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Snow.
Well, I have to share. I got called a bobblehead again tonight, and it's kind of funny because I've been called a bobblehead since I was 30 and got dystonia. It's kind of my trademark thing, Debbie the bobblehead. But you can only say that if you mean it as a term of endearment. I don't want it used any other way, and I don't appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
I don't
Illinois.
have anything to say. I'm glad he left early, that's all I can say. Not mentioning any names, just.
Mr. Johnson?
Only thing I have to say is I hope, that when we go to the ribbon cutting tomorrow, I hope Dallas Newkirk is at it, because he really put on a star show this weekend at the baseball tournament Saturday and Sunday. He made the show, believe me.
Yeah.
Wow.
He did good. They won all the games Saturday and all the games Sunday, and won the tournament, and it was the highest team of all the teams that played on Saturday going into the Sunday games and all. I mean, there was the highest point spread. They had the most points of any other team. So, if Dallas hadn't been there, it wouldn't have happened, believe me. So I hope we get to see him tomorrow. I'll talk to him, see if I can talk him into coming to the ribbon cutting, because this sports center is moving ahead pretty good now that they got a deal with the indoor golf. That's going to be a great thing if people like to play indoor golf. I never played golf much, and also now they got a contract with that SBA. That's how they played the tournament, with the first tournament of the SBA, which is a national travel team league. So they're moving along, doing pretty good. It's a little less than 2 years since it opened, so I'd say they're coming along pretty good. Hope to see everyone there tomorrow.
Okay.
What time is it going to be?
4 o'clock, I was
Huh?
corrected. 4 o'clock.
I thought it was 3.
Yeah, I thought it was 3, Deborah said 4.
Wait,
I defer to
wait,
her.
hang
Let me
on.
pull up my calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it on my calendar.
What'd you have, yeah?
It was
1600?
4 o'clock.
1600 hours, all right.
4 to 6.
That's when it actually opens.
609 North Nova Road.
4 to 5.
Huh?
609 North Nova
Oh,
Road.
that's a different golf thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other one that's coming on the outside.
And
609.
Joe, you got that study there. I'm a little, the last study I knew was 2015. Can you figure out what that 2018 thing is that Ellen was telling us
I'm
about?
going to have to dive into it. It looks like this is a request for qualifications for professional design services for an HMGP drainage project. It looks like it might have been, I'm not sure what that number is, 2019. Well, what this is it's a list of work experience that Sam Hamilton submitted as part of his project. But I don't know, the Glen Meadows drainage project, I don't know when that was conducted. It's just on his list of experience. So I know Sam, I'll call him tomorrow, and I'll try to get to a little bit more information about it.
All right, thank you. So without anything further before us, we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting.